Hey, this is Tim Derling. Welcome back to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. Thanks for watching yet another episode. Without an audience, wouldn't be any point in me doing these shows, so I'm glad to get some reaching some people out there in the vinyl community. Got some more likes to the page, which is awesome. Thank you very, very much. This one in particular, I don't really want to call it a grab bag because that seems cheap, but these are some 80s hard rock records I have that I don't have full collections by any one artist, but they're great records and they're great bands, and I do have some vinyl from them, so I want to present that on this version of Tim's Vinyl Confessions. And these are albums which were, these were all popular albums. A lot of them, just quickly off the top of my head, I think they're all platinum albums, so they're all million sellers. So some of you out there have them, but I bet a lot of you out there had them on cassette and upgraded to CD, if anything. Probably not a lot of vinyl. So some of the 80s hard rock bands, I hate the word pop metal or hair metal. I don't like those terms, but these are bands that were sometimes fit into that category. So a lot of cassettes, because that's the age that I started getting into music, buying cassettes. Then I upgraded to CDs. Vinyl came later, and even though these albums were manufactured on vinyl, didn't tend to be the core audience buying vinyl for these bands. So just I put them in alphabetical order, and these are all albums that I recommend if you've never heard the bands or the albums before on Tim's Vinyl Confessions. First up, Cinderella, Long Cold Winter. This is a great album. This came out in 1988. This was the band's second album on Mercury Records. This is a Canadian version of Long Cold Winter. Unlike the CD or the cassette, the logo is embossed here. I love the simplicity of this cover. It just seems to work for some reason. Maybe the logo fits against the white background. But that's the front and back cover. Inside, I've got another band shot, and it says also available. There's the first one, album Night Songs, and Night Songs, the videos, the VHS, because that was becoming quite a popular thing. Credits and lyrics, and the album itself. It's good, vinyl's in good shape. Typical Mercury logo, although it has the Cinderella logo, so it was customized and it was a standard all at the same time. Cinderella, Long Cold Winter. Next up, it's a band I like. Never really tried collecting their records. I just happened to come upon them. Is Dokken. I don't have their first album, Breaking the Chains, but this is the second album, Tooth and Nail, from 1984. This, if you had this on cassette and you never saw it in any other form, you were probably thinking, that's not the album cover that I'm used to seeing. We'll get into that later. This is a U.S. pressing of Tooth and Nail. There's the back cover. I don't know if you can see the spine there or not, but there it is. The cassette it did indeed have a different cover on it. It was this, and then a mirror of it. So it was like the two claw hands coming up in the black background. That's, for whatever reason, that's what the cassette looked like of Tooth and Nail. This is on Elektra Records, and it follows the standard red and black Elektra label that they were using at this time. Vinyl's in decent shape. Tooth and Nail's a great record. My personal favorite Dokken album, though, is this one. This is Under Lock and Key. It came out in 1985. This is a Canadian version. It's on Elektra, and it's distributed by Columbia House. Good old Columbia House. I'm curious how many of you out there were Columbia House club members at one time. I was in the early to late 90s for the most part. And then when I first joined up, I found it a great way to catch up, to upgrade my cassettes to CDs. Very glammed out photo of the band. They probably laugh at this today. In fact, I know they do. George Lynch does anyway. And there's the lyrics. Same red and black Elektra logo on this one. This one's got a few scratches on it. It had some play for sure. Next up, I love this album cover. This is Dokken's Back for the Attack. This came out in 1987. It was their most successful album, I think. Ironically, it was their last album before they split up for the first time. I like the back cover too. It's very cool artwork. You know, vinyl just lends itself to stuff like this. The inside stuff is cool too. And once again, with the regular Elektra label on the record itself. And I was really surprised to find this one. This is Dokken Beast from the East. This is a double live album that came out in 1988, right after the band broke up. This is actually a Canadian version of this. I don't know how rare it is, but it's the only one I've seen. Double live albums were really more of a 70s thing, but some bands insisted upon doing them, Dokken being one. And what's unique about this is that, I don't have the CD right in front of me, but this record actually is like the cassette. It's got altogether 17 songs on it. And I think the CD version, the North American CD of Beast from the East, only had 13 or 14 songs. There were some songs missing. So this one has them all. Dokken always did well in Japan, and this is the inner sleeve of Beast from the East, just a Japanese flag recreation. Standard, just plastic sleeves. I'll just dig one of them out there, and as you can see, it's just the regular Elektra logo. So that was a neat find. I was not expecting to come across that. That's it for my Dokken records. Next up, Great White. This is Once Bitten from 1987 on Capitol Records, a U.S. pressing. They had this period of putting their lyrics in their song titles like this, which sucks in my opinion because you can't read it. But anyway, it's not my album. Plain white sleeve on this one. I don't know if there was a lyric sheet with it. This was what Capitol Records releases looked like in the mid to late 80s, with this multicolored rim around them and the classic Capitol logo. Vinyl's in really good shape. And the follow-up album to Once Bitten, of course, was Twice Shy. This was a big album for this band. And once again, a terrible way of writing the song titles. I don't know why they did that. This is Spine, if you can see that. And I would imagine this has a little bit more going on credits-wise. Yes, and there's the lyrics to the songs. A few credits. And by the very late 90s, we're back to a purple Capitol logo, but yet it has the Great White logo on it as well. So that's what the Twice Shy record looked like. Somebody says hair metal band. We were one of the first bands mentioned. Poison, the band I happen to love. I've seen them in concert, a lot of fun. You can say what you will about Bret Michaels. Yeah, he's cheesy these days. But this is a fun record, and it was a huge record. Sold something like 5 million copies. And I've got this vinyl copy here that says the original cover, as you just saw. This is a Canadian Capitol edition of Open Up and Say Ah. Various photos of the group and female companions. It was the late 80s. Anything goes, they say. Okay, so here's another example of just this picture on here. And if you've never seen the censored cover essentially looked like this. And this is one of those this side, other side deals. It's got all the song titles listed in this really ugly green, but green was an ongoing sort of motif for Poison. I also happen to have this, which is kind of neat. I love picture sleeves, they're cool. This is the picture sleeve to Fallen Angel from the same album. This is an American picture sleeve, picture of the band. And the single itself, it's Capitol, but it does have an Enigma logo. And B-side of Fallen Angel was Bad to Be Good. Next up, one of the most successful hard rock bands of the 80s, Ratt. This is their debut EP from 1983, which this is a 6-song chunk of awesomeness. I love this EP. Sweet Cheater, Tell the World, Walking the Dog. They covered Aerosmith on this one. Well, it was actually a cover in and of itself. This is actually unopened. It's got a chunk in it, so it was a markdown. It's unopened, and I'm not going to open it. And this EP is just about impossible to find on compact disc, but I eventually did. Of course, the big Ratt album, if anybody had one album by this band, it was this one, Out of the Cellar, from 1984. This is a Canadian version of 1984. Front and back cover. Just a plain white paper sleeve with this, and a typical red and green Atlantic label on the record itself. 1985, this is Ratt, Invasion of Your Privacy. This is an American version of this. And photos of the band on the back there. And inside, well, this is a waste of whatever mauve or whatever this color is. A little bit of information on here, but no lyrics or anything. And again, it's got the logo on it, but it's the standard red and green Atlantic Records label for Invasion of Your Privacy. One more Ratt album, Dancing Undercover. This is a Canadian version, Atlantic Records, of course. Back cover, song title's hand, like this writing. The font is a handwriting style. A little scuffed along the side there. And same photos that were on the front cover. Not much else to it. Same photo that was on the back cover with the credits written on it. And again, red and green Atlantic logo for Dancing Undercover. Band I don't see a lot on vinyl. Tesla. This is their first album, Mechanical Resonance. This is a Canadian edition on Geffen Records. Great album, great band. Great band. Love this band, actually. They're one of those bands that I kind of take for granted and don't listen to them for a while, but then I listened to them again and thought, why don't I listen to Tesla more? They're still around, of course. They just released an album 2014 called Simplicity, which I'd recommend. You hear a lot about Nikola Tesla way more now than you did when this band was formed in the late 80s, or the mid 80s. That's a photo of the man himself, the true inventor of radio, as they say. A little write-up on the band and some credits. And, of course, it's Geffen Records, so this is what it looks like. Just a black label with the silver Geffen logo on it. And one more record to show you. A band that takes a lot of flack, unjustly. Call me whatever names you want, Stewart or whatever. This is the first Winger album from 1988. This copy is in plastic, but it is open on the sides. Canadian edition. Great, great band. And this is a debut album. I spent a lot of time listening to this cassette. Winger were originally supposed to be called Sahara, which is why it says Sahara. The bottom right corner here. On the cassette it only said Saha, so we didn't know what that was about. But apparently they were sued by somebody who said they had a band called Sahara, so at the last minute they changed it to Winger, which I think works. I like the Winger logo too. If this artwork reminds you of Def Leppard Hysteria, there's a reason for that. It was very inspired by that, the whole gun sight thing and the sort of face on it. It's just a paper sleeve and red and green Atlantic logo. It's the first Winger album, the only one I have. So these are incomplete collections, but they're good albums and they should not be ignored. So that's why I wanted to feature them in this edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions. Thanks for watching.